All right. So, one of the things that we do tend to see is if Bitcoin does show exceptional strength, it's not necessarily going to be super long lived. And we might actually see Bitcoin underperforming again, especially compared to things like the S&P 500. And it looks like that might be the start of what we're looking at right now. Now, I should take note that, by the way, this is kind of quite a crazy chart right now. We'll dive into, what this might mean a little bit later on in the video. But what this does mean is, S&P kind of had its drop here on Friday, and then today, obviously being Saturday now, Bitcoin is pulling back by a little bit, but it's not sweeping important levels. And I think that's actually, the single most important thing to be discussing in this YouTube video. There's actually a lot more that I want to discuss with you, and it's on the Four Flies Gold Telegram channel. I actually put out a 10-minute voice note on that Telegram channel last night, and it is linked in the description down below if you want to gain access to that channel. Oh, it doesn't actually let me show it to you here on the browser, but that is going to be the link right here in the description to join that free Telegram channel. There's a lot of exclusive stuff that they've been getting for years, actually, that you guys have never seen. And this is a really good example of the most powerful stuff I can drop in there, right? I can make a video for you guys, but it's not as easy as just dropping a voice note, at the beginning of the day or end of the day or whatever the case may be. So definitely check out that free Telegram channel if you want more, kind of super, super in-depth analysis from me. I'm not going to go into what I said there, but it was really, really important. And I did discuss some potential buy levels as well. So some actually highly actionable stuff there that I'm personally not going to be doing anything with yet, but that I'm certainly keeping on my radar. So check it out if you like the sound of all of that. But bringing it back to the video here, we have got now just a very, very small pullback, and really this is the key level to break, right? If Bitcoin can get below 81k, then we're probably going to start sweeping some of these lows and coming into some of our really nice support zones a little bit lower. It's actually, I think, quite a blessing that this ended up taking so much time. It doesn't matter at the end of the day whether it happens quickly or slowly, but there is an argument to be made that obviously this entire market cycle has been characterized by honestly quite slow, arduous kind of correctional price action. And that basically means this kind of sideways range lasting 224 days but only spanning a 22% price range, which to put that in perspective, 22% up from here puts Bitcoin effectively between 80k and 100k for over 7 months. And so far we have actually, effectively been in that same price range for 5 months now. So, we're definitely creeping up on some of these, quite large time frames now to be in a shit range. And that's why I think that it's actually not so inappropriate, right? What Bitcoin's doing. It's just another slow correction coming down into a, honestly quite important support area. One of the big things that I will say, ladies and gents, and I think this is actually a really big deal, is, if you do take a look at this short that I uploaded right here, this also went on Twitter. This failing to understand what's in this short will really mess you up. You will be in trouble, and what I'm talking about in this short is the difference that people have in their analysis, where historically you do it really, really well, and then when it comes to the present day, you throw all of those rules and principles out of the window and you become an emotional, just an emotional wreck of a trader. And there's so much more to it. Check out that short if you haven't already seen it. Really, really good content that we're dropping right here, of course. And obviously, while you are looking in the description and stuff like that, you have got some quite beautiful opportunities for some nice cash bonuses to trade on exchanges with if you're interested, and obviously only if you're not from a restricted region. That is, of course, very, very important. But bringing it back to the video here, nice kind of lengthy consolidation continuation periods. I think a key characteristic of this market. Bitcoin has now been doing that for quite some time. Since the high was set, we've been trending down for 2.5 months now as well. So again, we're talking about long-term significant price action here. And I think that the reason that's a big deal is, I think one of the first things I'd really want to point out is, when a market cycle kind of ends, it's going to be quite intense, right? And I think we're kind of really starting to see the difference now. If we measure this from the high to, this low right here, it took Bitcoin, just under a month basically to drop down by 38%. And it's worth noting that Bitcoin hasn't even dropped by 30% so far. And even at that, it did drop by 30%, my bad, only just. And at that, it took nearly double the amount of time, very nearly double the amount of time for Bitcoin to drop by an even smaller amount on this occasion, right? And that's just, that's how bull markets tend to end, right? They tend to end, pretty quickly with some pretty extreme price action, right? Take a look at this kind of, this high right here. If we measure it down to this significant low, this took, just over a month, 32 days, but the price drops by more than half, okay? It dropped by 53%. So, we're clearly seeing a softer kind of bear market here. And we're seeing that inside of an existing uptrend. So, all these facts remain the same. Trump didn't change them, believe it or not. The tariffs didn't change them, believe it or not. Anybody that is kind of telling you that these are end of times, or that it's really significant, or that even that it's really significant, these are people who at any, and I promise you, at any given point in history, they would always think that they are in the end of times, or more accurately, they would always think that some really, really big shit is going on. Realistically, I think what these people fail to understand, and this is the majority I'm talking about now, probably even many of you watching this video, I think what these people fail to understand is that the only thing that would be significant and unusual is if nothing significant and unusual happened. Okay, the world is really big. There's a lot of money moving around. There's a lot of big stuff going on. At any given point, there's always something really, really big and game-changing going on. The tariffs just have a media spin on them right now. And, the markets, I think, are telling you that pretty clearly. Even the S&P 500, even the S&P 500, it is down by 17.5%. Okay, so this is not the first time that this has happened to the S&P 500 by any means. In fact, it happened just over here. And I think that this entire S&P 500 bear market, which lasted 280 days, this is a very long time. I feel like this entire bear market was better received than this 17% drop right here. So, and just in terms of numbers, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, this is a literal 27% drop, and it happened between 2021 and 2022. So, this is actually a big deal. Yet it feels like the fiery responses are just really charged up on this one and not so much back here. So it's just about maintaining perspective, right? Like, what are we actually looking at? How bad is it actually for the market? Is the market due for it? I think that's actually, a pretty important question as well, which we can, just measure very easily, to kind of get some sense of. If we take this nice little info tool right here and measure this from the absolute low to the peak, that was a 631-day bull market. And on this occasion here, this was an 850-day bull market. So I don't know, man. Like, maybe after 850 days of trending up, you are due for some sort of a shakeup. It's not even that bad. Obviously, we're just zooming out a little bit. There are kind of, groups of people that are like particularly upset by what's going on right now. And the memes right now is that these are actually the boomers and whatever. And I'm seeing that myself. I'm seeing other people that are just middle-aged, getting like really offended by this because of what's happening with their 401k and whatnot. I think these people just don't understand the markets that they've invested into. It's honestly just, it really just shows how poor financial education is, even in the United States. Maybe especially in the United States. Not really. I think they're probably the best at it, but there's still a lot going wrong. And I think that's why people are kind of, really just shook up about this, right? I mean, like drops like this are actually, quite incredibly normal. We have them quite regularly. Like this drop right here, this was in and of itself a 20% drop, and it's smaller than what we're in right now. And there's, it's not hard to find these. I mean, this was a 15% drop, which is very close to what we're in right now, right here, right? This was a 20% drop. I mean, we had how many of them? Let's just measure this, like in this kind of range. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had 6. No, this one doesn't count. So we had 5 of them inside of the 2010s. 5. We had 5 significant, 15 to 20% and beyond corrections during the 2010s. 5 of them. That's 1 in every 2 years. We're very much on schedule, ladies and gents. 2022 and now 2025. We're very much on schedule. From a time-based analysis point of view, this is not surprising or unusual. This is ultimately my point. It's not surprising or unusual. If you really, and I think this is where people really would benefit from a much deeper understanding of how the economy works and how markets work as well, right? Like everyone's got a really shitty surface level understanding of this stuff, so this stuff looks terrifying. But to have this kind of growth, you will get these kind of drops, right? You must, in order to pull this off, you must first have this. It's kind of part of the deal. And it's very hard to get around that. It's very hard to get away from that. You'd have to change how things work on a much more fundamental level, which is what Trump is trying to do. I don't think he's trying to tackle this specific problem because not many people care about it. But there are other things that they're trying to do in this kind of similar direction to really just shake things up in a way that they haven't been shaken up in a while. Whether that's a good thing or not, that's up for debate, but it's not the debate that people are having, right? The debate that people are having on Twitter and inside of their, group chats and stuff like that and Telegram, Discord communities, whatever. Nobody's really discussing the right ideas here. It's all about tariffs and, balancing out the trade deficit or whatever the hell, the keywords are. It's never the more, fundamental stuff. There's no one ever asking, but why is it like this? And until you start asking questions like that, you'll never actually get to solving any of these problems. But hey, people don't really want to solve problems, do they? I'm running ahead of myself. I'm going to have to get going pretty shortly, because I need to wrap this video up. But here's the thing with the S&P 500. Like I said, from a time-based perspective, we're good. From a price-based perspective, we're good. From a percentage-based perspective, we're good. We can drop down by up to 21.5%, 22%, and that only puts us down at S&P 500 at the S&P 500's previous all-time high. Okay, and that's something that we've done before, right? Look at this all-time high and look at how we very, very nearly came back to it to back test it on this occasion. Okay, so this is an absolutely beautiful representation of how these markets do tend to kind of come back to significant levels, to back test them, and that's definitely what happened here. Probably more accurately, you can say that we kind of back tested this level, and there's absolutely nothing to say that shouldn't happen here. It's the best thing that could happen to the market, and it's like I said on Twitter to you guys. You guys are going to be so embarrassed with yourselves when this crash is over. Just the way people are acting right now, I feel like things are like particularly obvious on this occasion that, we're good. Between the entire endorsement of the, federal government now essentially for crypto and many other countries, also moving in that direction. It's just extremely clear that we're not in a bad place from a fundamental perspective. Tariffs and so on, these more economic factors can certainly have bearings on these markets, and honestly it could be the thing that really smashes us down, but so far we're holding up really well, so you don't even have evidence for that. Like I said, that can change. Benjamin Cowan's also been saying that, Bitcoin does have a tendency sometimes to kind of decouple from the markets and not drop for a while, but then it just kind of drops afterwards. That is really normal. And that's what I said in my first video talking about this. If you go back, I specifically mentioned that, it's not a big deal yet, but if it continues, not for a couple of days, but for a couple of weeks or months, that's the kind of time frame that we can start to really make an argument that Bitcoin is decoupled. Right now, these are just mini tests. It's passing, it's doing well, but they are mini tests. They're not super significant, and they don't mean anything if Bitcoin doesn't do anything with them. So, so far we're just following in the footsteps of many, many situations that have collapsed for Bitcoin, and I think that's a really important thing that we've still got to keep in mind. Okay, we're not out of the woods yet, but so far, for every step we could have taken so far, we're doing incredibly well. We're doing absolutely incredibly well. So 81K, like I said, is going to be that level to break. So far, it is support. If it's going to keep acting as support, I don't really know, but who cares? If you got free cash to trade these things, then you wouldn't really care about buying this level, would you? So, I can totally understand why some people would think that way. I know many people have kind of used the free cash available with the links in the description in that way, if they're not from restricted regions, of course. I can't endorse any of those ideas. Obviously, you got to do whatever the hell you think works for you, but obviously, these are going to be some of the typical plays right now. People going long off support and short off resistance, potentially to scrape some little gains right here. If we break this level, then, we probably get deeper into the 90K level. We're going to have to break 95 and then all-time highs are above. But if we lose this level, we're probably coming back down to some really, really significant support levels. We're still basically in the middle of all of these ranges, so nothing too significant that I can say about all of that. Bitcoin's dominance has started to pull back a little bit. We are in a little bit of a bull flag. This can easily break up at any point. It can also come down just as easily, but I think we're more poised for the upward direction because of how strongly upward this trend has been, and the fact that we're just in another kind of consolidation event before the trend recontinues. Sometimes our consolidation events are small, sometimes they're quite sharp, and other times they're just very, very small like this. So, that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of Bitcoin's dominance. Ethereum against Bitcoin continuing to slide and bear flagging down, basically showing us the same thing on Bitcoin's dominance chart, but in inverse. Trump coin is kind of in free fall, not really, still holding on, basically just back tests everything before it drops. It's not a super safe chart. That's why I don't talk about it too much. Solana against Bitcoin, Solana against the dollar sitting at $118, a little bit under some of its support levels, now turning into resistance. Its Bitcoin chart still looks very weak to me. It still looks very bad. There's really nothing here for Solana at this stage. It's already started free fall. You can clearly see that when it lost this level, it immediately took a 10% shit. And it's still sitting, lower than this level. So not a good place for Solana against Bitcoin as well, unfortunately. But still very recoverable. We've seen other coins like Binance Coin recover these kind of drops before, and it's kind of doing it right now. So still definitely recoverable. These breakouts, they mean less and less these days. That's kind of one of the ways that these markets have changed now. But here's Doge sitting at 16 cents, holding on. If it can hold this level, then what a beautiful buy. Honestly, this might be one of the better buy opportunities that come up. Ultimately, I don't think that it matters because it's going to do whatever Bitcoin does, more or less. And I think that Bitcoin it's still in a downtrend. So, it could still definitely break down, and that's still something that I would not be so arrogant as to say that that's not going to happen at this stage. So there you go, ladies and gents. I hope you have enjoyed this video. You know what to do. If you have, smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. Check out these links for beautiful free opportunities in the description. If you're not from restricted regions, check out the 4FliesGold Telegram channel to see that 10-minute voice note that I put in. I still haven't actually really covered what I mentioned in that voice note, and it was a really, really powerful message. I'm so glad that you guys were able to get it early in that 4FliesGold Telegram chat, and there's going to be much more like it coming in. So if you like the sound of that, then definitely check that link out in the description as well. With that, ladies and gents, hope you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do, and I'll see you all in the next one.